Hello, the program is Stan the History Man, and I'm your host, Dr. Stanley Sandler. Been talking about technological failures or technological ideas that weren't very good to begin with. Another one that I have thought about was luxury airliners. The British especially went in for that. And what happened, the historical background, this was during the war, the British had made a deal that they would not get involved in making passenger aircraft until after the war. And there's various back and forths. We gave them more money or something like that. So what happened in the United States, really, by the end of the war, we had some really very good propeller aircraft, the DC-4, 5, and 6, the Lockheed Constellation. The British did much of anything. So what they did, a forced draft program to build aircraft across the Atlantic nonstop. And the first of these was the Bristol Brabazon. This was a huge aircraft with 6 engines, and it just took forever to build. And the first flight was 1949, and it had counter-rotating props of turbine engine. Well, they were supposed to, actually didn't. They had to put in lesser aircraft engine, not nearly as much power or smoothness. And it had everything. It had cinemas, no, of course, electronic viewing in those days, cabins, restaurants, not just food at your seat side, and all of this for 100 people, carrying 100 passengers across the Atlantic. And figuring the cost of this thing, I mean, it just did not work at all. And so the Brabazon never made a commercial flight. Largest aircraft in the world by far. Never made a flight. The second one was the Saro Princess. Sanders Lowe was the company, and called the Princess. This was a seaplane. Now that's old technology even by that time. But again, all kinds of double-decker, huge aircraft, biggest in the world this time. And it also was due to fly in 1949, but the first didn't even fly until 1952. All these, both the Brabazon and the Princess, all kinds of difficulties. This was cutting-edge technology for propeller-driven aircraft. And again, all the luxuries that the Brabazon had, the Princess also had, and again, it was going to fly 100 passengers across the Atlantic. So the British government was pretty tight, though. This is post-war era of austerity, and it was hard enough to get that kind of money out of the British public. But when they realized, the Parliament began to realize that this thing could never pay off, and we're going to get this, by the time you have people fly only 100 passengers in that kind of comfort, it's just not going to pay. The fares would be out astronomical. So neither one of them ever made any kind of a commercial travel at all, and they were scrapped. There were 2 Brabazons built and 2 Princesses, and both of them have only parts in museums. So that's another case of dead-end technology. The Bristol Brabazon, the Princess, as I've mentioned before, the hovercraft and the supersonic transport. Well, that's Stan the History Man. I'm your host, Dr. Stanley Sandler. Thanks for watching.